Hey guys, this is Eckhart Slatter. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Legends lore video. And today we're covering the Legacy era, which I personally really enjoy because it allows me to move into territory that a lot of you aren't aware of and that hasn't really been covered much on YouTube. To get to the meat of today's video, we're going to have to cover some background information, so please just try to hold tight as I do so. Anyway, in 29 ABY, the Yuuzhan Vong War ended and the galaxy finally entered a state of eternal peace. Well, actually, no. First we had the Swarm War, which could have been admittedly much worse, but for the intervention of the Galactic Alliance and the Jedi. However, the Swarm War was important because it was a big step in the ongoing militarization and, dare I say, imperialization of the Galactic Alliance, the government that replaced the New Republic. Many systems began to take issue with the oppressive actions of the GA until finally Corellia and other planets directly took up arms against the Alliance and attempted to secede. This marked the beginning of the Second Galactic Civil War, and the Galactic Alliance government feared that the galaxy would be torn apart after only being barely recovered from the Yuuzhan Vong. As this was happening, the Jedi Jacen Solo was being corrupted by the Sith Lord Lumiya, and was beginning to believe that only a powerful but benevolent Sith Lord could secure a safe future for the galaxy. I feel like we've maybe seen this before. Jacen, falling deeper and deeper to the dark side, used the conflict to rise through the political ranks of the GA, already having furthered his force powers on a 5-year journey across the galaxy. Jacen would take a commission with the Galactic Alliance Guard and would gain control of military resources and power until he finally controlled an entire fleet, led by the Star Destroyer, the Anakin Solo. As the war escalated with no conclusion in sight, Chief of State Cal Omis waffled on his treatment of the burgeoning separatist movement, and seeing an opportunity, Jacen deposed Omis with the help of Mon Calamari Admiral Cha Niathal. The two became joint chiefs of state. With control of his personal fleet and the full powers of a chief of state, Jacen went on to commit a series of atrocities across the galaxy in the name of a Galactic Alliance war effort. He looked positively Vader-esque, from burning much of Kashyyyk in a devastating orbital bombardment, to killing subordinates and prisoners, to attacking his parents and the Jedi, and much, much more. Eventually, Jacen even publicly took his Sith name, Kaidas, and ruled cruelly until his death in a duel with his sister, Jaina Solo. The galaxy, afterwards, was shocked by Jacen's turn. He had been one of, if not the greatest Jedi, and was a hero during the Yuuzhan Vong War, and of course, a child of the galaxy's most famous family. Following the Second Galactic Civil War, there was obviously an opening for Chief of State. For some reason, people decided that literally one of the worst choices ever, Natasi Dalla, former Imperial Admiral, should be given the rank. As a reminder, Dalla literally tried to destroy a defenseless Jedi training academy on Yavin 4, had openly attacked Mon Calamari, and had, in my opinion, showed very little skill in the post-Endor period, but whatever. Unsurprisingly, Dalla, as an ex-Imperial, was a proponent of order and the rule of law. She took major issues with the Jedi, who were acting extrajudicially as a sort of police force outside the control of the government, with almost no oversight, save for the internal Jedi processes. She saw Jacen Solo as perhaps the ultimate representation of this, and really failed to recognize the difference between Jedi and Sith. Dalla would eventually arrest Luke Skywalker, holding the Grand Master and the Jedi as a whole accountable for the crimes of Jacen during the Second Galactic Civil War. In defense, Luke hired ex-Rogue Squadron pilot Nawara Ven as his attorney. This was all complicated by the fact that Force psychosis was beginning to take hold on Jedi who had been stationed at Shelter, and if you don't understand what I'm talking about, there's a whole video I've done on that, which I'll link above. Either way, Luke felt in the Force somehow that he had to meet with Natasi Dalla to discuss the charges, and while doing so, realized that the Jedi Order was at a tipping point, and that the Chief of State had perhaps legitimate qualms with the Order, which made any sort of formal cooperation, and perhaps even coexistence under the current scheme, non-feasible. So he decided not to fight the charges. Luke, in essence, took one for the team. Instead of having a prolonged public court battle which would damage both parties, Dalla and Luke, to the disappointment of the press and the public, came to an agreement. Luke would conditionally accept responsibility for Jacen's fall, while also placing some fairly onerous restrictions on the Jedi Order, mostly about their ability to operate independently. However, more importantly, Luke was exiled from Coruscant for 10 years, while during the same time, he was prevented from not only leading the Jedi Order, but even using Jedi resources. Master Kenneth Hamner was appointed Grand Master in his stead. However, there was a condition. Luke could end the exile early if he could find out the cause of Jacen's fall, which I personally think is a little unfair. He's sent off to do some mission across the galaxy, but doesn't have access to Jedi resources and isn't even allowed to contact the Jedi. His hands were also tied because he was forbidden from visiting any Jedi Academy, so there were entire swaths of planets which he couldn't go to. Anyway, we'll talk more about Luke's journey on another day, but essentially he followed the sojourn taken by Jacen Solo, leading him to, among other places, the Maw. He was accompanied by Ben Skywalker, his son, and during this entire time, upheld to the letter the restrictions of his sentence, even on technicalities. Thankfully, Ben was able to communicate to the Jedi the emerging threat of the lost tribe of the Sith, and of course Abeloth, and Luke eventually was able to return to Coruscant after he not only discovered the source of Jacen's fall, one which seemed inevitable and outside the hands of the Order, but Abner Natasi Dalla was also ousted from Chief of State by the Jedi. Again, I know that I'm kind of glancing over these later parts, but I'll cover them all in a dedicated video. Let me know what you're most interested in though. What do you think of Luke being exiled from Coruscant and the Jedi Order? Do you like these Legacy era videos? I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Today's question comes from Liam, who asks whether I plan to do any top 5 lists about my favorite starships. And just generally, I try not to do lists which just list my personal opinion because it is subjective. I mean, which ship is better is also subjective, but you can base it off criteria, while favorite is just all personal preference. That's totally something I'm open to though, not only best ship, but best weapon, favorite movie, whatever else, if that's something you guys are interested in. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Maybe I'll remember to put a poll, but let's be honest, probably not. Anyway, until next time guys, this has been Eckhart Slider. As always, have a great night, and may the Force be with you.